Hi, I'm Mike Seibouts, and this is a quick tutorial about the fundamentals and general direction of a Future House track. There are plenty of ways to achieve the sounds of Future House, but this is my favorite way to go about this kind of project. I'm going to of course show you how to create that famous Future House bass that you hear in most drops of this style, but I'm also going to be going into some layering techniques to give that bass more color and vibrance. And I'm also going to be going into some minor production techniques. So first there's the main bass sound that I have here. With most music, the bass has a lot less varying pitches and isn't quite as animated and exhilarated. But with Future House, you generally want to create a melody with a movement of sound. And so what I usually do is try to create a very rhythmic pattern that spans an entire octave or more. I also shoot to make a pattern that can be repetitive but won't get annoying after being repeated more than once. This is the setup on my synth. I'm not going to go fully into the routing just because this video is focused more on the creation of the full drop rather than specific sounds. But if you have the same synthesizer, you can copy my routing. Here's the layout of my operators, and as you can see on the left side, there are a few operators playing at some odd pitches, and this is actually how you create that really rich sound of a Future House bass. It's common for additive synthesizers to use their oscillators at fifths of the main pitch to create the same sound, and in this case, I'm using ratios like 8.5 and 7 to perform the same tactic. The waveforms are also interesting in this bass because it mainly uses subtle waveforms like sine waves rather than squares or saws. This is because it allows you to add more harmonics so that you don't go overboard and create more of an electro house bass. Future House is all about subtlety. In the FX tab, I have a light phaser and flanger loaded to give the sound more of a thrilling movement. And finally, in the master section of the synth, I have it transposed to -24 semitones and have a semi-noticeable portamento, and finally I have a unison of 3 voices with slight detuning. So one thing that I think is overlooked in Future House tutorials is the use of layering over the main bass. And the main idea here is to excite some of the upper harmonics above it. And one instrument that I love to use for this is the saxophone. It's not used to sound like a natural sax, but to layer the main sound. In this case, I'm using Native Instruments Kontakt for this sound, but you can use any saxophone ensemble library. The one thing that you have to do here is copy the bass's notes onto this saxophone, and then copy those notes up 1 octave. Now we have our plucked sawtooth synthesizer that I created in Native Instruments Reaktor, and again just copy the bass's notes, but this time transpose them to a higher octave. Finally, our last melodic instrument is this gritty saw synth that can be achieved in almost any synth VST. And here's all the layers of these together. You can really tell that just by turning off one layer, the sound is a lot less colorful and dense. Now onto our percussive instruments. This is our drum set, which is playing a simple pattern of kick, snare, hat, and shaker. As a rule of thumb with Future House, try to keep your drums simple, but dancey and fun. In this case, I'm using my favorite sampler, DrumLab, which allows you to blend natural drum samples with electronic samples. I quite love this sampler for more minimal styles of house, like Future House, or breakbeat in drum and bass. Here I have a Hey sample, playing on the offbeat of the kick. At the end of the pattern, I have a sample of a splashing snare that I borrowed from Logic's drum sample library. Now more into the production side of things. I decided to route the bass and saxophone into bus number 3 with a reverb and delay. Then I routed the 2 saw synthesizers into bus number 4 with the same effects, only with a 90s style delay, which was simply a creative choice. I won't be going into equalization in this video. Last but not least, you may have noticed that I have a track titled Sidechain, and I'm using this to create a pumping effect that is often heard in EDM. I have crafted this using a 4-to-the-floor kick drum that is being sent to bus number 5, muted, and has a send set to pre-fader. That way the kick won't be heard. Then I have sends number 3 and 4 being bused to send number 6, which has a compressor on it. The compressor is being sidechained by bus number 5. Alright, well thanks so much for checking out my video, and if you'd like to hear some of my tracks and DJ mixes, please be sure to subscribe to my channel, where I'll be posting music very soon. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Hope you enjoyed and have a fun time producing.